And we can speak now to Mark Daou. He's a professor of communications at the American University of Beirut and was a former candidate for the Lebanese parliament. Thanks very much indeed for being with us. So the Prime Minister has talked about this explosion being caused by possibly dangerous materials that were stored in the port and had been there since 2014. Can you explain to us what kind of oversight there is of the port and how that kind of material might have been there for so long in such a densely populated area?
The material is stored, it was in hangar number 12, which is one of the biggest, and they store all flammables in it, or material that is highly sensitive to explosions and otherwise. And those were stopped there by a court ruling because they're not allowed to enter Lebanon. And they were basically trying to get them into Lebanon using excuses of using them for fertilizers, so the reports so far are saying. And it seems that something terribly went wrong there, and they were not stored properly. There was a lot of flammables in that region, and then there was a massive fire followed by the intense explosion, which basically destroyed a 2 to 3 kilometer radius of homes and houses around. I was one of those who is missing a door glass and an entire entrance to a house because of the blast. Basically, it's negligence. You've got the Customs Department, they're responsible for it. And then you've got the Ministry of Defense, because they have the right to supervise anything of an explosive nature, such as dynamite and others, and including the ammonium nitrates that exploded this evening, as well as there's for the port of Beirut, by the way, is 80% of all imports into Lebanon. So it is the main vein, it's the main artery for this economy, for food, for medicine, for everything. Right next to it is the biggest storage. And if you see the footage, you'll notice the big dominant white building. That's the strategic grain reserve for Lebanon, which got completely destroyed. And that means wheat. It means 3 months of wheat. And around the port, there are at least 2 or 3 of the biggest mills in Lebanon that also produce the flour for the bread. So the damage is massive on every scale. It's food security, it's medical and supplies, plus it is the physical destruction and the injuries. What they just reported is they just crossed 50 people dead and close to 3,000 injured, and people are still flooding into the hospitals. And now they're transporting people from central Beirut hospitals to others, because one of the major hospitals, which is close by, also got affected and destroyed. So some of its capacities have been decommissioned because they cannot function with all the glass and all the damage, and they're not confident that the machines are actually properly functional because of the impact. I think someone reported that it was close to 4.5 on the Richter scale. That was how massive it is. It's close to an earthquake. What happened today is negligence, and what happened today is very close to being considered a crime against the Lebanese people. It's a crime against humanity.
Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued because you did talk about the reason why those explosives were there. Can you elaborate on why there would be, from materials apparently seized in 2014, why they would still be in position? Just give us a bit more detail about that, because presumably there would need to be inspections at various points to establish whether explosive material was still in a stable state, especially if it's in a hot area and that kind of thing. Were there any inspections of the area?
There are regular, basically, investigations of that area. Inspections are constant because it's in the middle of the busiest area in the port. So you always get lighters and other flammables going through and in and out of that hangar. The problem is the quarantined area, which is basically quarantined because of a legal process that was dragging on, and no one would get the final decision on whether to export that product to the source where it came from, while the court was going until it got a decision. So far, it's been negligence in terms of preserving that material that is related directly to the Port of Beirut safety and the board of directors of the port, as well as customs and the security agencies which are responsible for such things.
Sorry to
and by the way,
interrupt,
there is no evacuation
I just want to clarify, the stuff that was there, was it being impounded because it was destined to create weapons, or what was the story behind that stuff being there?
It was, okay, the excuse to get them into the country at the time was they're going to be used to produce fertilizer. But such material is not allowed into the country. So it was impounded, and there was an ongoing investigation. The company that got them here was going through the legal process, and it seems there's some political intervention that this has been dragging on for 6 years, and the product has remained in storage. So obviously there is a huge political game being played there. First, for allowing them into the country. Two, for starting the legal process that has stalled so far for a good 6 years.
Thank you very much indeed, Mark Daou, for giving us your expertise and that very interesting information about the possible causes of that explosion there. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Our homes and buildings quite some distance away from the explosion have been badly damaged. Anshal Vora is a journalist living in Beirut. These are pictures from her house showing how powerful that blast was. The impact of the explosion blew out her window.